Hi, I'm the Space Quest historian, and today's a special day. I'm in someone else's house. Thank you for letting me in.
You're welcome.
Nice to meet you, sir. Thank you for having me. This is Frederik from blipblop.net, which is...
A website about video game music on vinyl, of all things.
And not just about, but also a showcase for one of the world's biggest collections of video game musics on vinyl. Music.
It's a bit of a mix. It's a news site where I try to keep track of all the new stuff coming out, which is a lot at this point, and also try to keep track of everything that has been pressed out there over the years. I don't have everything. Maybe someday. I doubt it, but who knows.
I first became aware of the concept of video game music on vinyl maybe a year ago or so. And last September I was at PAX and I saw the I'm 8-Bit booth. And they had, Grim Fandango and Undertale on vinyl. And I thought, this is a pretty cool idea. I can't wait to bring this home to Denmark and show everyone. How long have you known about this?
Well, the website just celebrated, so to say, its 5th anniversary, and I've known about it for a bit longer than that before I actually got proper into it myself. I bought my first game soundtrack back in 2011, I think, but didn't think of it as like video game music on vinyl. This is cool, but more like, hey, this is a good soundtrack. I'm just gonna buy this like any other movie soundtrack,
And which one was it?
Red Dead Redemption.
Ah.
Back when it was still pretty new.
How long has the phenomenon of video game music on vinyl been around? It's been around a lot longer than I would assume.
Yeah, so it first started back in the mid-'80s in Japan, almost exclusively in Japan, actually.
Of course.
Where when video game really started booming, where a lot of different companies, Japanese record labels teamed up with Japanese game companies to release some compilation albums and like arrangement albums, symphony concert albums, stuff like that, based on video game music. A lot of it continued on CD and cassette in the 90s as well, but since vinyl kind of died down, sort of, during those years, a lot of them didn't get released on vinyl afterwards until probably the 2010s. It really started getting traction again in 2013, 2014. The first one started to appear again, and now it's just exploded.
It has more or less exploded, because I keep seeing like Space Lab newsletters where they just pump out these ridiculous box sets of games that I've never heard about.
Oh yeah,
like 6 LP on green translucent vinyl from this indie shoot 'em up game that no one has ever played. Wow. Well, I suppose someone has played it, but not me. Is your mission now to just collect everything that's ever come out on wax, or do you have like a...
That was my mission once upon a time, until it exploded, and I have to be realistic now. Now I try to get as many as possible, but I prioritize games I've played or soundtracks that I know are interesting or
stuff you'll actually listen to.
Yeah, I mean the goal is still to listen to things I buy, but there's a few where I've listened to it and afterwards I go with, well, it was interesting.
The record was nice.
Yeah.
Which one is the most like gimmicky, awesome one? Because I know they come out in like a weird variety of colors, and some of them glow in the dark.
Yeah.
The covers are all die cut and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's a couple of weird ones. I really like one Mondo did a few years back for Portal, which is that magic wallet, so you can sort of open the record from both sides and you can pick it out. It's this really heavy, sturdy cover with the texture and stuff. And there's some that are just maybe not gimmicky, but kind of lavish. Like there's a box set for Okami, which is a 4 LP box set, but it comes with a pretty big art book, just with the concept art from the game and stuff.
Oh, lovely.
One thing is the soundtrack, which is arguably the main thing about a vinyl record, you would think, at least. But in some aspect, a lot of these soundtracks are also seen as kind of merchandise for fans of the game, who might not necessarily be strongly interested in playing, listening to the soundtrack on vinyl, but just have a physical object connected to the game somehow. So putting a little extra effort into packaging and artwork and stuff like that.
Yeah, you were telling
makes
me
it more
earlier-
appealing for those kind of fans too.
Yeah, you were telling me earlier that there's a study that said that a lot of new record buying people don't actually have a turntable.
Yeah.
They just like them as physical art objects.
It's a way to support an artist or a game in this case that you're a fan of, without necessarily having an interest in listening to this particular object.
So that would also go a long way to explain why a lot of video game soundtracks are on colored vinyl or splat vinyl or have these weird packaging and stuff, because it's not just a black vinyl with some music on it.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
a whole
It needs to look
experience.
good. Needs to feel good. To open this and put it on a shelf, like you can see behind us here. In this case, for some more oversized packaging.
This one is shaped like an actual book. Can I take it down?
Yeah, it's the glue's gone. So, whoops.
Be careful.
Yeah. This is
Holy crap! Look at that.
yes, the glue went, but it's actually intended to be shaped. So Cuphead is inspired by this 1930s cartoon art style. So they decided to package it like original shellac albums. It should have been 10-inch if they were really faithful, but I'm kind of glad they didn't do that at least. But this is the kind of style that an original shellac album would have come in, because there could only be 2 songs on 2 or 3 songs typically on a shellac disc.
Which is where the term album actually comes from. I was surprised to learn this. Some music artists also seem to enjoy taking the piss out of vinyl collectors. I know the band Garbage released their first album on a collection of 7, I think it was 10 7-inches.
Yeah, that happens every...
One song on each side. You get this little book.
There's a few... so the soundtracks to the second and third Life is Strange games came in these tiny little 7-inch boxes where there's 4 7-inches. You just... I don't know. It's pretty inconvenient, to be honest.
It's really interesting, because another aspect I suppose we should touch on, because it's fair to say we're both vinyl nerds. I have my collection at home. You have your very, very impressive collection here. So we sort of forget the elephant in the room question, which is, why vinyl? It's such an inconvenient format. If you want to listen to something, you have to physically get out of your chair and put the record on and put the needle down and try not to hold it the wrong way, because then it just falls apart in your hand. Why vinyl?
I found that people have different, kind of entry points to why they prefer. A lot of people say the sound quality. That's, to some extent, I can get behind that, but it varies so wildly compared to digital, because there's such a heavy process involved with getting something to vinyl. There's mastering, lacquer cutting.
Tell me about it.
Pressing. Yeah, you know a bit about that. Of course, there's also some work to be done for digital and CD releases, but there's a lot more things that can go wrong in the process, at least. Personally, I'm drawn to the physical aspect of it. Kind of got frustrated by the sort of playlistification, you call it that, of music, where you just listen to single tracks in a row of different tracks, rather than an album format, where you can listen to an entire collection of songs in an order that was thought and cared about. But there's something about actually having to sit down and listen to an entire album through, or at least a side of it, without being easily able to just skip through, and this isn't just a playlist.
I could not agree more. There's something to be said for careful sequencing, the ebb and flow of an album. This is you can just shut the video off now. And especially with a soundtrack. And today we also have the test pressing for Space Quest 3, and I thought we'd give it a little listen and see if it meets the approval of your specially trained ears. Will you do the honors?
Yes. Yeah. See if I can get it out without dropping anything.
This is not the copy I've listened to. It is a brand spanking virgin copy.
Very exciting.
Music is happening.
It's wonderful.
So of course my main worry is it too bassy? Is there not enough treble? Because as you mentioned, when you master for vinyl, you have to cut some of the high frequencies off because they get compensated for by... Oh god. I have no idea if this actually sounds good or not. I'm so far removed from it now.
Ideally, we'd be listening with headphones on for closer details, but that probably wouldn't make for a very interesting video, just with us bobbing our heads.
Interesting video. I don't recall ever making one of those.
Should note I'm probably not an expert on the topic. I listen to a lot of music and enjoy a lot of music, but I'm not hearing anything wrong here. That's my go-to.
Not too bassy, not too muddy. Muddy is another big problem I run into sometimes.
I didn't notice that. I think it sounds like I would expect it to sound, I should probably say.
How many projects like mine do you see crop up, like curates? Because most of the records I see here are from the actual game developers, or they license it to a record label and they put out the vinyl. But how many of those sort of niche underground, if we don't get 100 pre-orders, it doesn't happen kind of things do you see?
So the use of curates is fairly new. There's a few others before yours, but you can be counted on one hand. I can't remember the exact number on top of my head, but not a lot. There's been Kickstarter and Indiegogo has been used a bit before that, but that's of course a slightly different concept too.
Yeah.
Because that will often be funding the entire recording of the album as well, and not just a vinyl release.
Yeah.
But it's becoming more and more common. There are more projects on curates in this past year than there's been before. So back when I started doing the site, it was relatively easy to keep up with everything coming out, because that would maybe be a new release or two every month. So pretty manageable. Even I was studying back then, and even on that budget, I could buy 2 or 3 records a month as an import. But now we'll see 2, 3 more new releases announced a week. So just actually having to keep up with that, everything of this I'm doing on the side when I'm home half the time. So, now someone's doing that and someone's doing that, and that's this weird indie game I've never heard of. Should I just check it out first? Or so it's become a bit more work over time, and so I never really gave up that. Oh, there's not that many. I can buy these. Except it's not really that case anymore. Now I have to be like a little more strategic about what will sell out fast than I really want. And thankfully, we also have better distribution in Europe now than compared to when I first started out. I'm not as on point as I used to be because I can't sit in every wake hour and just wait for the next announcement.
Have you thought about a staff, an intern?
That would require me having money for this to myself in the first place.
Well, then there's another point. Blip Blob is a labor of love. It's not.
Yeah, there's no advertisements, no
source of income.
No income. I am fortunate to get the occasional freebie record every now and then. Some nice test pressings now, for instance. But for the most part, I buy these records from my own salary every month and try to keep it a secret to my girlfriend how much I actually spend on all this. And
I don't know that feeling at all. Which is the most insanely priced record on your shelf? Not to say the most rare, just the one you spend the most astronomical.
The most one.
Money on.
I really hope my girlfriend's not watching this. It is the first official Nintendo release in, I don't know, 20, 30 something years. There we go. It's a promo record for Splatoon 2. So it's actually become a little bit cheaper since I first bought it. This was sort of one of the first copies that went up for sale. Also a picture disc.
Oh, lovely.
It's really cool. It was only sent out to like press and some YouTube outlets, and maybe given away at some conventions too. But it's a pretty small run. There's only 3 tracks on it.
I should not be holding this.
I shamefully paid £300 for this one, and
bugger.
It still hurts a bit, to be honest. But
So also just so you can show off bits of the collection, like the most lavish packaging of any record. Which one is like your favorite in that regard?
So I mentioned it before. I think it should probably just it's the Okami box set probably.
Oh, that
there's,
one.
There's a few different ones that are really really nice, but I'm very 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 fond of this one. Very big, heavy.
Oh my god. Oh yeah.
So you have 4 LPs and individual sleeves and an art book. Probably hard to get in the video, but there's like some of the artwork is.
It's glossy.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you hold it up to the light and it.
For a UK label called Data Discs, who did a wonderful job creating that one. You would have color vinyl on this one too.
Oh.
And really worked closely with Capcom to get concept art for the game, which is just a gorgeous game to begin with, but the concept art itself is truly special.
And also, this is kind of interesting. This is a Japanese game, obviously.
Yeah.
The record comes out the other way than you'd expect. Oh, yeah, it doesn't really show very clearly on camera, but this is a translucent vinyl with some pink splotches on it.
I think they call it the cherry blossom splatter or something like that to fit with the game. Oh, it's a really nice one.
Good lord.
So up until that Supergiant box that I talked about, this was the biggest one in terms of records. It's the Dark Souls Trilogy box set with the 9 LPs.
Good lord. That is a lot of music.
That's a lot of music.
And they're all on double vinyl.
The first one is double, the second one is quadruple, and the third one is triple.
Oh, so they stuck 2 records in.
Yeah, I think
each.
they had a wide spine, so it actually fits better than you would think.
Oh my.
The weird thing about that one was that it was a European exclusive, so you couldn't order it if you were outside of Europe and a few other countries. But a lot of American fans were pretty displeased about not being able to order this, or had friends pick up copies for them.
Ah, yeah, that's another thing. Maybe we should talk about the exclusivity of these, because as you say, they are to a lot of people these are like art objects. I'm just gonna have to make sure I put them in the right. So of course, there's going to be a lot of small runs, exclusivities, and then you get these lavish box sets and such. What's your stance on these? Not mass produced, like small runs of records where eventually they'll just go for insane amounts of money because they only came out in limited quantities.
I regularly talk to people from some of the labels who release some of these records, and it can be. Sometimes you're pretty sure that you have a hit on your hand, like if you're doing a very popular title, like Resident Evil was recently released, or Cuphead was pretty safe bet too.
Yeah.
So for those, it can be easier to estimate that you would kind of need a fairly big run to accommodate the demand. But I know for smaller games or retro games too, sometimes it's difficult to see. A lot of people who are fans of the game, but they also buy the music and how many records should we press. So I can sort of understand that I'm not blaming the record labels, at least most of the time, for not making enough copies, because it can be very difficult to determine when enough is enough. Because most of these labels are not huge major labels either. So they have some economy to think of too, and warehouse spacing and stuff like that.
Yeah, manufacturing records is not cheap.
It isn't. But there's also a case to be made for like artificial scarcity, making something exclusive just to have it be in demand. And there are some being accused of that too, and in some cases,
I got accused of that.
It's difficult. You even made it possible for everyone to back for limited time, right?
Which is and the limited time is a curates thing.
Yeah,
it's not my idea.
It's difficult too. There's a lot of there can be a lot of marketing involved.
Yeah.
Which not everyone have the resources or time to do, because no one likes doing marketing.
Do you think that another reason behind having these physical objects on your shelf, big box games went away? Like, people don't have game boxes on their shelves anymore. Do you think this sort of acts as a replacement? Like, game companies forgot how much geeks and nerds like to show off their collections of stuff?
It could be to some extent for
I don't know why I keep
some
fondling
games
this,
that
by the way.
it's very pretty. Don't it's all right. But I still find that more and more games actually getting collector's editions in bigger boxes. Probably not so much for PC as for consoles. You can't see them because they're in another room, but I have a few on the other side for various games.
Right.
And I have a few boxes for the games that included the soundtrack on a vinyl record standing over on the shelf there too, which is also a thing. Like including the soundtrack on vinyl as a bonus collectible in your game deluxe edition.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that
almost seems like you get a vinyl record and a bonus game, really.
Yeah, that's kind of my approach with a lot of it, which is stupidly expensive for some things. Can't recommend it.
I like that. It's like
I've had to pass on a lot of vinyl records because I'm not buying a huge game box set worth $100+ for a 7-inch record, for instance.
Right.
I did that a couple of times in the early days, but ultimately it's like spending a lot of money on something where I'd rather just have this little piece of the box, and then I'd rather overpay a little on eBay, but maybe pay $40 for a 7-inch, which is a lot of money, but rather that than having to pay $150 for a box set full of things I don't need.
Yeah. So if people want to follow the work of the Lord that it is you do, where should they go?
They can find me pretty much on all social platforms. I post a lot on Twitter at BlipBlopWax, and Facebook as well under the same handle.
And of course, the website itself is
BlipBlop.net. Yes.
Yes. I was super surprised when I started that Space Quest 4. I just found your website. I just searched for video game music website, whatever. I was looking for someone to just sort of like maybe post a tweet about it or something. And I came across your website, and I remember writing to you in English, because I was, of course, assuming you were American.
Most people still assume that, so that's fair.
And then the reply comes back in English, signed, Frederik. And at some point we went, we're at least Scandinavian, both of you. Are we actually in the same? We are in the same country, aren't we?
Yeah, a little more than like we live 30 minutes apart. Right?
We live 30 minutes away from each other. So that was fortuitous, and that a video came out of that. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.
And we're now both infected.
Yeah, I have hand sanitizer in another room.
We'll be good. It's an absolute pleasure and a blast, and I hope you enjoy your 2 test pressings. I can't think of anyone more deserving.
Thank you, and I'm sure I will. Looking forward to listening to Space Quest 4 now, actually.
Yes, without the crack in
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yes, what a way to end this. Anyway, cheers.